Hi guys, I thought I would do this quick video for those of you that might be interested in building your own house. I just recently went through numerous steps to get my building permit. I'm actually located in Virginia, and I feel, but I don't know for sure, that they have a lot of regulations. My assumption is certain other states might not be as regulated as this. But I figured I would just kind of go at a very high level some of the items that you're going to have to do if you're going to build your own house. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm building a geodesic dome from natural space domes. This is essentially a kit home. It shows up on a semi-truck. But before that happens, I have to go through all the processes as if this was essentially a stick-built home. So I kind of wanted just give some highlights of what I learned. So this is at very, very high level. I know that there are a number of folks out there that have more experience than me, but this is kind of a 101 for those that don't know. One of the first things that you want to focus on is the zoning. So for the most part, there's two different, you're either going to deal with residential, which is normally R1, or agricultural, which essentially you can build, normally is where you have a bigger parcel of land, but for the most part, they allow one home and maybe an additional home that can't be rented out long term. So, so check the zoning. You'll see sometimes it's one home per half acre, one home for a quarter acre, or something along those lines. In my situation, we did agricultural. We had 8 acres, but we're still only allowed one home. The zoning folks are very, very focused on essentially your setbacks. Your setbacks are the number of feet away from the border in which the home is actually going to sit. So in my situation, for the most part, as long as the home is 35 feet away from the border of the property, I am okay. When you're building your own home, some states require when you actually do the plans. Some states require an architect stamp. In my case, I actually, even though I had to have it stamped from a Virginia architect. So the design was actually out of state, but they ended up handing the plans over to a local engineer. The engineer reviewed it, and you'll notice that on the plans that you get back, everything is stamped. So it has a Virginia stamp. And in my situation, that is required in order for me to build. The local engineers just make sure that your building meets local, minimum local requirements for that area. So for those of you that, initially we were looking into building a yurt, our area said no to a yurt, which was kind of surprising. Our specific county said no to a yurt because of the R values. And R value is the insulation that, and it's the ability for your home to maintain its temperature, your heat and cooling. In my area, we have to meet a certain R value in order for the home to be approved to be built. So not all counties have this sort of requirement, but specifically in mine, they did. And you need to figure out if that's kind of a big deal for your county, because that should be outlined in the plans, the R value of the structure. So for those of you that might not be aware, the well and septic aspect of your house here right now is actually not, it's with the state health department. It's not with your local county. So when it came to the well and septic, we were dealing with a state department versus a county department. Again, might be different in other locations, but here this was the case. So in my situation, my land already had well and septic on it, which was really good. So all I had to do was submit a request for a septic modification permit. which sounds really simple. You just kind of tell them what you want to do, and you do it. But what I actually had to do is I had to hire a environmentalist, essentially he's a soil environmentalist. He's certified, and what he did is he went out and he looked at the parcel, he took our plat, and he drew the modifications on the plat and submitted it for to the health department. So after, and in my state, I have to hire a licensed septic company to do all the work outside of the actual structure itself. And then after they're done, I have to hire a soil engineer to come back and review everything and sign off on it. And then I take that signature to the health department, and then they sign off that everything is great. So if you don't have a well and septic, you're going to have to essentially submit a plan on what the well and septic is going to look like. In my situation, if I didn't have a septic, they were requesting essentially a septic walkthrough, where they're going to meet you at the lot and you kind of explain where you're going to put the septic system. So, and obviously in that case, you still had to hire a licensed septic company to do the work for you. The one thing that I was kind of new to a little bit was something called land disturbance. I had to submit a land disturbance permit. So that means you are modifying the lot. You're moving dirt around. And in my situation, I had to tell them how many acres of dirt I'm going to disturb. You probably want to keep it under an acre if you can. Anything over an acre generally requires a site plan. If you're under an acre, it's a little simpler. But one of the things that they did require, in addition to the land disturbance permit, is there had to be an individual that was responsible for it. I think they call it a land disturbance. Actually, it's called a responsible land disturber. And that's someone that has to be licensed with the state. Since I was doing it myself, I really didn't have anyone that had that license. So I was stressing out a little bit. I called a few folks. For money, they were willing to give me their license, license so I can submit the permit request. But what I ended up doing was I ended up going, in my case, to Virginia. I ended up going to the Virginia website, and I actually took the course to be a responsible land disturber. And then I took the test and I got certified myself. So I think that was only a couple $100. It was just a lot simpler. And what the test essentially does, what the class does, is it tells you how to handle runoff water and soot that you disturb. So it talks about the methods in which you put up silt fences to make sure that that the ground that you're disturbing doesn't all wash into the roads or into your neighbor. So again, this is another requirement, land disturbance permit. So, and in my case, we can move on to the next one is the owner responsibility. Since I'm doing it myself, I had to fill out a long form that essentially says that I take responsibility for any damage that I might cause or screw ups, and that I'll do what I can to rectify it. So next thing I wasn't sure that was kind of new is I actually had to contact, in my case, the Virginia Department of Transportation. They had to come out and they looked at the lot. They looked at the driveway. They looked at the area. They knew that heavy equipment was going to be coming in, and I had to get the department to sign off on it in order for me to move forward. So VDOT came out, they looked around, and they said that my entrance was suitable for new construction. So I also had to submit a survey with the proposed location of where it's going to be at. And I had to submit tax information to ensure that all my taxes were paid up on the property. Before I could actually begin, I had to, the county had to come out and they had to make sure all the silt fences were up. They kind of walked around and they pointed it out, where I might have needed a fence and where I was lacking, I guess. After all that, you pay the money. They give you the land disturbance permit, and then they also give you a building permit. So all these need to be available on. You essentially put it at the beginning of your driveway, so the public, John Q. Public, can see it. So. Also remember, when they do on-site inspections, you need to have a copy of all the plans there at all times. And I think that's pretty much it when it comes to some of the items that you need to keep in mind when you're building. And again, this is just kind of 101 on what you need to expect. If I missed something, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you.